Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. Today, I want to talk about some circumstances surrounding the school shooting in Michigan recently. I don't want to talk about the shooting itself because I don't know enough yet to actually make a coherent or comprehensive video about what happened. The only things we know so far is it seems like it was premeditated, and it seems like it was done with a gun that the father had just recently bought, possibly for the son. We'll talk more about that at a later date once I have a little more info. But what I want to talk about tonight is how it seems like the media is hell-bent on somehow tying this to right-wing conservatism and Donald Trump specifically. You know, they have to use that boogie word, the Trump. You know, that's the boogeyman for a lot of people in the middle and on the left. So they're trying to portray it like, oh, the parents are such right-wing fascists because of just a couple of things. Because one, apparently the mother had written a letter to Trump. That's the way it was portrayed in some of the articles I read. But in other articles, it was just she had commented on a video or a post he had made somewhere at one point in time. And the thing they're doing with the father is he owns guns and he buys guns and he believes in the Second Amendment and blah, blah, blah. And that's what they're using to demonize these people. The mother, what she said in a post was basically, she said, one thing I agree with Trump on basically is that, you know, I like your stance on gun rights. Although I bet that was before he said, take the guns first and then give them due process later. But she said, I like your stance on gun rights, and I agree with you that we need to do something about illegal immigration, even though I agree with legal immigration. If that makes you a crazy Trump supporter, then I guess I'm a crazy Trump supporter because I believe in the Second Amendment, and I believe in legal immigration, and I think all illegal immigrants should just be sent back where they came from. So, if she's a crazy right-winger, so am I, and I know I'm not. So I'd have to see a little more evidence than that. Because also, one of the things they seem to leave out in the post, if you read the actual whole thing, she also talks about how she's a feminist and believes in women's rights and LGBTQ rights. Not a lot of right-wing crazy Trump fanatics I know of that go out there and go like, yay, gay rights and women's rights, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if she's so much a fanatic Trump supporter as she is just a person that doesn't hold strong political leanings to just one side. They have actual opinions about issues and not just about what party they're in. You know, like I'm a Republican, so I hate everything Democratic, or I'm a Democrat, so I hate everything Republican. So most people aren't like that. Most of us judge issues on the issues. So I don't know how they're painting her so right-wing crazy, and the fact that dad's got guns. You know, they can always kind of portray it like, well, they need 7 guns or 12 guns or whatever. If that's the line, the cutoff for being a nut job, well, I guess I'm a nut job then, many times over. So I don't like when the media does this to people. I'm not saying they won't turn out that they are crazy Trump supporters or just crazy in general. But I'm saying that it's the media's desire to portray this, even though they have no evidence of this. I think it's kind of indicative of what the media loves to do. Even when there may not be any political issue involved at all, they try to tie it to politics because they got to keep you divided. They got to keep you on that R side or that D side, because if you go into that I, that little lane of independence in the middle, if that lane gets too big, the Republicans and the Democrats might actually have to start doing something to earn people back. And they don't want that to happen. People might actually start paying attention because independents pay attention to politicians and be like, y'all suck. And they don't want too many people paying attention, or they'll actually have to start doing their jobs instead of just becoming rich and powerful. So they don't want that. So the media, who basically works for the same corporations the politicians do, has to make this about politics, even though I've seen nothing at all that would indicate it's about politics. But it just irritates me, and I wanted to take a moment today to point that out and see if anyone else has noticed it. All right, everybody, with that being said, I want to move on here, and I want to talk to you about open carry. As you can see, I'm wearing my Every Second Matters shirt because this is December 2nd. Now, by the time you see this, it's December 3rd, but it is December 2nd, trust me. And I want to talk to you about open carry because I want to talk about the good things, the potential good that comes from it, and some of the risks that are associated with it. Because, like I said, today was the 2nd. I always open carry on the 2nd. Now, the 2nd very seldom aligns with one or two times a month I go down to the city, but today it did. Because I had to go down there early, drop off my Mustang to get the calipers painted. So I took it down there this morning, dropped it off. Last night I had taken my truck down and left it. My truck that's very old. It's been basically rock crawling through riverbeds. It's drug four-wheelers out of ditches. Never had a single scratch on the windshield. The body's scraped up, banged up, paint falling off, but the windshield's been pristine. Never had a single scratch on the windshield. Well, I also don't ever drive to town really, but I drove to town last night so I'd have a way back this morning because everybody else was busy. So I get in it to come back today after dropping my truck off early. Well, down there, when I go to Wheelcraft to get drop my Mustang off, I had some wonderful conversations with people there who noticed my grips that match my car. They're gun people. The guy I spent a lot of time talking to, he's also a gun person, and he's also not one of these politically polarized people. He's not far right or far left. He's just middle of the road, ordinary person who believes in the Second Amendment. And he wishes more people would be like that. And I'm like, hey, that's the whole goal of my channel, is to try to get more people to just be middle of the road, take their blinders off, and see that the government isn't for any of us, and start caring about your rights again. And it was a great conversation. That's one of the great things about open carrying. But like I said, as I was pulling out of the parking lot of the place to drop my car off at, Wheelcrafters, I pull onto the road. Not 2 seconds after I pull onto the road, a white Camry in front of me veers off the road, hits gravel, throws it all over me and two other cars, cracks my freaking windshield, puts a chip in it. I bring the car to the city one time, the truck to the city one time, chip in the windshield after all the stuff it's been through. It was kind of ironic. So I was a little upset. I wasn't pissed or anything. It's just a rock chip in a 1994 model Silverado. But I go home. I go on home. I get home. As soon as I get home almost, Dan from Sporting System texts me and says, your background check came back. You can come pick up your gun. And I'm like, God damn it. If I'd known that, I would have stayed down there, had breakfast, waited for them to open, picked up my gun. But there was no way I could have known it. So I was like, well, I'll get the list ready for tonight's drawing, then I'll go down. Well, needless to say, it took me 5 hours to get the list ready for tonight's drawing. There was 1,363 entrants. So that was a lot of cutting and pasting and typing, and I can't type. So it took me a long time. But when I first decided I was going to go back down to pick up the gun, I said, well, I'm going to call around, try to find a place to fix my windshield. I called around, found a couple places, but they didn't have appointments yet. But this one lady said, hey, we're really busy here, but I've been sending people over when I have overflow to the Jiffy Lube down the street, and they seem to be doing a great job. So I'm like, oh, great. That's actually just 6 blocks down the road from where my gun shop is. So that's killing 2 birds with one stone. So I call them and they're like, yeah, we can do it. And we don't take appointments, so it's first come, first serve. And I'm like, well, what's my chances of getting in today? They're like, we got 3 bays here. Only one's got a car in it and there's nobody waiting. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'll finish this list. I'll head down there. That'll be fine. Well, like I said, list takes 5 hours. So I call them back again when I'm done saying, hey, I was going to come down earlier. Got busy with something. What's it looking like now? They're like, there's 2 cars in the bays. They're both about ready to leave. There's nobody waiting. So I'm like, oh, cool. I'll head right down. So I head down. And remember, I'm still open carrying because, it's the 2nd. I dropped the truck off. I'm like, okay, I just need a rock chip repair. They're like, oh, well, the guy that does the rock chips is not here right now. He went to lunch. And I'm like, well, I just called a little bit ago. It's a weird time for someone to go to lunch. It's like 3:30 in the afternoon, but I guess, retail. So I'm like, all right, well, if he's going to be back, they say be back in 45 minutes. I'm like, if he's going to be back, well, then I'll just leave the car here, go ahead and give it an oil change, top up the fluids, blah, blah, blah. Because I get it done once a year on the truck. I never hit 3,000 miles in a year, so I don't have to do it at the 3,000 miles. I just do it every year. And it's been almost a year since I did it. It's been like 11 months. So told him, just change the oil, fix the fluids, and then do the rock chip repair and call me. I'm going to the gun shop. And they're like, cool, no problem. Remember, I've been open carrying this whole time, not thinking anything of it. So I know they noticed. In fact, one of the people that checked me in, the guy that checked me in was a little person. So he was like face to face with my gun. And it's a big 44 Magnum on my hip. I don't think anyone's going to miss it. No matter how oblivious you are. So I check it in, I leave. well, I go to the gun shop, and then I decide I'm going to go to McDonald's and eat. Still open carrying, not really thinking much about it. I get my food at McDonald's, I sit down, and then I had an interaction with someone about my gun at McDonald's too. He goes, "Is that real?" This kid that was sweeping the floor, he says, "Is that real?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Oh, well, thanks for your service." And then he went on. And I was like, "Okay, thanks." But I was like, "How do you know I was in the service?" Because of my gun. And then it dawned on me later that he probably thought I was a cop and he was thanking me for my service as a police officer. And I wish I had realized that earlier, because I'd been like, "Oh, no. I am not a police officer. I was not bullied in high school enough for me to be a police officer at my age. So not a police officer, and I have other options for jobs. I'm not a police officer. Much better jobs." So, not thinking of it. But I go to the bathroom before I leave Burger King, and I untuck my shirt, so I'm not open carrying anymore. But here's the thing. While I'm at McDonald's, they call me from the Jiffy Lube, and they say, "Hey, we're not going to be able to fix your chip in your windshield." And I'm like, "Well, why not?" "Oh, we haven't been able to do that for a few days because the Dremel's broken." And I was like, "Well, your Dremel's broken. You know you can go get another Dremel for like $35, right? And there's a Walmart right down the road." And they're like, "Yeah, it's been broken for a while, and we just can't do chip repairs right now." I was like, I called down not once, but twice and made sure before I made this trip. And it's a long trip for me. It's 45 minutes one way, minimum, with no traffic. I was like, so I'm a little pissed. I'm like, I don't even want to pay for the oil change now, because I wouldn't have gotten the oil change. I wouldn't have stayed here. I'd be home already if you'd have just told me when I got there you can't do the chip repair. Or you told me on the phone you couldn't do the chip repair. I'd have waited and come down tomorrow. Got an appointment with someone else, got it done, and picked up my gun. So I was mad. And I was like, I want to talk to the manager, because the manager's the one that's supposed to do the chip repairs. And he's like, "Oh, it's just been broken. That's the way it is. These things happen. Machines go down." I'm like, "It didn't go down 10 minutes ago. You're saying it went down days ago. Way before I called in." "Well, some of our employees just didn't know." I'm like, "Aren't you the manager? Isn't it your job to make them know things that affect customers?" So I consider that a failure from you. I said, so I want to have a talk with you when I get down there, and I want you to give me a card of your manager when I get there. So I was a little irate with him. I didn't do anything mean. But then after I go down there, I get down there, and the first thing I say when I walk in the front door, and there's like 7 of them in there, because a couple of them are new employees doing like a video thing. And first thing I do, I walk in, there's a bunch of them sitting there, and I'm like, "Who's Raven?" Because that's what the assistant manager said his name was. And he stands up and goes, "I'm Raven," a little bit timidly. Before he could even say another word, or I can say a word, the manager, an older guy, gruff guy, goes, "Hey, buddy, we got your windshield chip repaired. It'll be ready in like 2 minutes. We got that taken care of." He didn't know I'd already bought a new Dremel, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, "Oh, okay, great." Then he's like, "I'm sorry for the problem." And all. I was like, "Well, that's not a problem if he fixed the windshield." So I didn't think anything else of it. But then I started thinking after I got home, I'm like, when I dropped that car off, they knew I was carrying a gun. So now they know there is an angry white male Karen coming back here who's armed, who has a problem with what we did. And now I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm so lucky the police weren't there when I got there, because I wasn't thinking about the fact I was open carrying. So that was risky. I should have been more conscious of what I was doing, but didn't even think about it till after I got home. I am glad that when I went to the bathroom at McDonald's, I untucked my shirt because I was feeling kind of fat. So I wasn't really open and carrying when I got to the back to the shop, but I'm sure the word had already spread that I was when I dropped the car off. And at the end, they only charged me $51 for everything. They charged me for the oil change with a big coupon discount, and then didn't even charge me for fixing the windshield. So it all worked out great in the end. But that was a potential bad situation there. So I wanted to point out to everyone that I always encourage you, open carry. It can start good conversations like I had this morning. But be aware that you're carrying, and maybe don't be a Karen when you're carrying. Because like I said, in my brain, I don't even think anything of open carrying because I do it all the time. I carry up here all the time. To me, it's like I have a hat on. I don't even think about it. But like I said, could have been a bad situation. Luckily, probably a good thing that I am white, or else they might have been a different reaction to it. But I shouldn't say it, because that'd be like saying that the people who work there are racist, and I would hope they're not. But wanted to let people know I encourage open carrying, because like I said, it can really start some good conversations. But be aware you're doing it, because like I said, you can get into some bad situations too. All right, we're going really long today, but before I go, I want to read the winners of the Toy Guns for Tots handgun giveaway. We announced them during the live chat tonight. We were giving away a silver bullet and 2 guns, but because I read the wrong number on the second place winner the first time, I gave the gun to the wrong person. So then I had to read the right person, and now I have to give away 2 guns for second place. So whichever one of you wants the Kimber, I'll give you the Kimber. If one of you wants another Kimber, I'll get it for you. If you want just like a Glock or something, it's got to be in the same price range as the Kimber, I'll get that for you. But let's read the winners here. In third place, the person who wins the silver bullet is A.J. Willett. He was number 1,360 on the list. The second place winners now. The first one is John Teensy, I think is how you pronounce that. Tennessee. He was number 358, but I was supposed to be choosing 357. And number 357 was J. Frank Bean. Those are both the second place winners. You'll either get the Kimber R7 Mako or a Glock or whatever you choose in the same price range. And the first place winner that gets the Sig Sauer, the AXG Scorpion, is Wendell Gilliam. He was number 777, which that's twice this week I've heard the number 777. Like I remember thinking, is that the Antichrist's older brother? But it was 7 Wonders. That's why I was thinking of that earlier. But those are the winners of the gun giveaway. If your name was listed there for the gun or the bullet, contact me at shootingleftofcenter@gmail.com with the word winner in the subject line so that I can get these sent out to you ASAP. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here because I've gone very long. I hope to see you all again next Monday. And until then, I just want to remind everyone to always carry and pay attention if it's open or concealed. And stay safe until I see you again.